Peace, blessing, and love. Welcome back to the Zia the Begum podcast. It's your girl, Zia the Begum. This episode is deeply personal. I want to speak to those who have ever felt like our roots disqualify us from love, from belonging, from marriage proposals, or even from community acceptance. I'm Black, I'm Pakistani, I'm Muslim. My mother is Christian, my father is Muslim. And both of them raised me with love, with values, and with a deep reverence for faith. And yet, there are people in our own Ummah who will look at that and say, "You're not Muslim enough." Growing up, my faith wasn't something I stumbled into. It was cultivated. I was born Muslim. I prayed, I fasted, I read the Quran. I grew up with my aunts wearing the hijab. My mom, my dad, and my uncle taught me about modesty and strength. My Christian mother was an advocate for all of her children to know how to read the Quran, not just one, but all. But also pushed us to understand and know what we were reading and reciting, to really understand the words and commandment of what God is saying. Her sister was also encouraging as this as well. God bless them both. My home wasn't a battleground of beliefs. It was a harmony of respect. But in some parts of our community, being from an interfaith family or being racially mixed isn't seen as beautiful. It's seen as a problem, a liability, a red flag. Last year, I was getting to know a brother seriously. He seemed kind. Emphasis on kind. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. And he also had a potty mouth, but he seemed intentional. We talked about values, dreams, marriage, kids, and the deen. Then I traveled overseas for a public health trip, a decision I made carefully, responsibly, and with my values in mind. And also, my father was aware. I explained that I wouldn't travel alone once married if that was his preference, and personally, I also find it more fun to travel with someone. I typically don't travel alone unless it's visiting family, so I did not see this controlling or a loss. It didn't really make a difference in my lifestyle. But I do understand and acknowledge the hadith about having a mahram. To my non-Muslim followers, a Mahram is a close relative with whom marriage is permanently forbidden. Let me repeat that twice because this is very important in the story. A close relative with whom marriage is permanently forbidden. So these relationships are typically based on blood ties, breastfeeding, or marital relationship. So usually father, brother, son, grandfather, uncle, or a nephew. Back to the story. I understand, but this was a one-time necessary trip. There are other hadiths. And again, for my non-Muslim followers, hadiths are narrations of the Prophet. There are certain levels of authentic levels, so meaning kind of how strong, how likely. There's weak narrations, there's very strong narrations. So also take this with a grain of salt. I am not a scholar. Please take my words lightly. Check with your school of thought on some of this. But there are hadiths that do say it's permissible as long as it's with a group, which I was. Suddenly, after a day or two of silence, he messaged me, said we weren't compatible. And it wasn't his fault for wanting someone who came from a fully Muslim household. He referenced my Christian mother like it was a stain on my character. He said I had no Muslim role models. Mind you, even though I have hijabi aunts who are very devout and I grew up around. And again, even though I practice, I pray, I fast, and I strive every day to get closer to Allah. I know Muslim women who come from 2 Muslim parent households who wear hijab or some who don't, who also travel alone. Even one of my own relatives, a hijabi, devote, has traveled alone. And to my knowledge, no one has ever questioned her commitment to Islam. So what is this really about? Is it truly about deen, or about culture, or about control? About this imaginary checklist of what a proper Muslim woman looks like on paper. What hurt wasn't the rejection. It was implication that my upbringing made me less worthy of love, that my mom's belief erased my submission to Allah. More recently, I spoke to another brother. This time, the rejection was mutual and pretty much respectful, I could say. It did not come from my upbringing, but from my relationship with certain family members. He questioned me about hanging out with male cousins, and I was clear about my paternal side. But I do have close family ties on my mom's side. They're Christian. They're not Muslim, but they are my blood, and they love me, support me, and they always have respected my faith. It doesn't make sense to impose Islamic standards on Christian relatives. He also said he could never leave future kids along with my Christian relatives, even though they are the very people who helped raise me with love and respect, and yet he claimed he could maintain a friendly relationship with them. It felt like a contradiction in a respectful tone. But rejecting something sacred to me, my family, and I also want to point out something very important. Just because you are or someone is Muslim does not automatically mean they are safe to leave your kids with. In general, I wouldn't leave my kids with just anybody. Muslims can lead another Muslim astray. Muslims can also be predators. The logic on his behalf was poor. What stood out to me was the inconsistency. I also want to note that in Islam, discourage cutting of kinship ties. And if I were to completely disconnect from my non-Muslim family, that's what I would be doing. As a Muslim woman, I'm not even allowed to marry a Christian man. So let alone be a Christian cousin. It's incredibly strange to have my relationship with my family members sexualized or viewed with suspicion. Again, Islamic standards should not be imposed on them as they're not Muslim. I acknowledge my paternal side, and yes, in Islam, cousin marriages are allowed. A cousin is not your Mahram, since there is someone you can technically marry. In their culture and upbringing, cousin relationships are seen as incestuous and also illegal in America. But in Islam, in many cultures like Pakistanis, cousin marriages are allowed and common. So there's a double standard here. I'm being judged by cultural views that don't even apply or how I was raised. And that judgment says more about their discomfort than it does about my values. The part that stuck the most from the brother last year wasn't that I was rejected for something I did wrong, per se. And again, it kind of varies off of the school of thought that you believe, etc. I'm not a scholar. Take my words lightly. But I was rejected for who I am, for how Allah chose to write my story. And it makes you wonder, who gets to define what someone makes someone Muslim enough? Because last I checked, Allah looks at our hearts, our intentions, our taqwa, not our last names, not the tribes or clans that we come from, not our race, and definitely not the faith of identity of our parents. If a man can't see the beauty in my story, if he sees my mother as a threat instead of a blessing, then maybe he's not ready for the kind of love and complexity that real marriage requires. If loving me disqualifies me from your vision of Islam, then maybe your vision needs expanding. To every sister who has been told she's too Western, too mixed, too educated, too something to be marriage material, I see you. I am you. And let me tell you right now, you're not too complicated to be loved. You're not a problem to be solved. You are a masterpiece crafted by Allah Himself. May Allah grant us partners who see our worth, who honor our families, our journeys, and our growth. May He soften the hearts of our Ummah to embrace each other fully, not just those who fit the mold. Until next time, stay soft, stay strong, and remember, you are already enough. It's your girl, Izia the Begum, and the mic is on.